Good afternoon, guys. It is 7 o'clock. We need to go ahead and get started. So come on in, grab you a seat, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Tonight, we're going to have AJ and Andrew, in no certain order. I'm sorry, AJ and my brain has gone bad, y'all. AJ and Alex, my bad. Then Lucas is going to lead us in an invitation song tonight. So come on, guys.
867 to Cadence Wind, I'm on my way. 867. To Cadence Wind, I'm on my way, where the soul of man never dies. My darkest night will turn to day, where the soul of man never dies. No sad farewells, there will be no kingdom.
We'll be singing Trust and Obey 915, 915. First and fifth verse. First and fifth verse, Trust and Obey 915. When we walk with the Lord in the light of His word, what a glory He sheds on our way, while we do His good will. He abides with us still, and with all who will
40. 940 will be our song of invitation in just a moment. 940. If you have your Bibles, if you would turn to Psalms number 119. Psalm 119. Excuse me. In this passage, we have the psalmist. It's what we recognize as the longest book, the longest psalm. It's kind of right there in the middle of the Bible. But there's a section that I want us to make note of tonight. Psalm 119, starting with verse 17. It says here, "Deal bountifully with your servant, that I may live and keep your word. Open my eyes, that I may behold wondrous things out of your law." So here's the framework for the thought tonight. God, we know, deals bountifully with us, right? We are blessed. We are rich in physical and spiritual blessings. We can look at our lives and we can see how God is a part of it. Despite the inconsistencies or despite the problems or the peaks of the world. But you notice in verse 18, he says this thought, "Open my eyes." God, let me see the wondrous things, not of the world. Again, not the physical things that can be given to us, but the image there is the wondrous things out of your law. The psalmist mindset here is, God, you've given me so much. It's so wonderful. It's so mighty. But let my eyes be open so that I can see the greatness of this. Any of you think of some beautiful sights in your life? New little baby back there, is that the most precious thing in the world right now? I've got some photos at home. I might disagree with you. Preciousness, beauty, it's an eye of the beholder, right? Wondrous, great things might be different for each of us. What we see is there's a great thing. But the psalmist here says, God, let me see how great this is for me. Now, verse 19, he says, I am a sojourner on the earth. Hide not your commandments from me. My soul is consumed with longing for your rules at all times. He's saying, here's my mindset. I want to be right with this. My soul, it's the thought from the Beatitudes, the hungering and thirsting after righteousness. It's this image here of the psalmist saying, God, I am just desirous for what this has to teach me. Now, any of you parents or people been approached with, here's my list for Christmas. Here's my desire list. Here's what I want to open up on that morning. The psalmist is saying, my desire, the thing that I want to be able to hold to me and open up, and it's what this has to teach me. Now, verse 21, he says, you rebuke the insolent, the accursed ones who wander from your commandments. Take away from me scorn and contempt, for I have kept your testimonies. Now, notice verse 23. Here is how he sees the position that he's in. For even though the princes sit plotting against me, your servant will meditate on your statutes. His thought here at the end of this is, God, I want what you have to teach. I want what this word, your law, your statutes, your commandments have to teach me about living. But he says, even when the world seems to be wanting evil for me, even when the princes, the government, those people that are above me seem to be after my harm, that's the image, right? He says, even in that, God, I am going to seek you. I'm going to put you first. Then verse 24, your testimonies are my delight. They are my counselor. So think about this time. You look at maybe the things that you're wanting, maybe the stress the end of the year is bringing. But there's always something here for us. The psalmist says, God, it's right there. Just help me to see it. So tonight, maybe there's something in your life that you're unable to see. Maybe Satan has thrown something in your life from where you have that beam or that moat. Maybe there's something that I'm holding on to because I just don't want to let go yet. But whatever it is, let God open your eyes. Let this word, let this law teach you and show you what we're supposed to be in this life. If you need the help, the prayers of this congregation in any way, would you come forward together as we stand and as we sing?
We're going to be singing the first and third verses. Hear the sweet voice of Jesus say, "Come unto me, I am the way." Hearken the loving call, obey. Come, for He loves you so. Only a step, only a step. Come, for He bled for you and I. He's the same loving Savior yet. Jesus the crucified. Open for you the pearly gates. Loved ones for you, now watch and wait. Terrible thoughts to Christ to lay. Jesus, I come to only a step, only a step. Come, for He bled for you and I. He's the same loving Savior yet. Jesus the crucified.
You would be seated. It is a pleasure to see each of you here tonight worshiping and serving our God at the East Walker Church of Christ. We have a few announcements, I guess remembrances for December 13th, this Saturday, will be the Young Pros Christmas Party. This will be at the home of Bailey and Emery Sanford, 6:30 p.m. See Emery for that. Also, the week of Christmas, we're going to be moving our midweek Bible study up to Tuesday, so keep that in mind. Also, there are sign-up sheets in the hallway for the different works of the congregation, as well as Michael Jones, if you still have for Christmas meals. Did we get all of the T-shirts picked up, Lauren? All of the T-shirts? Okay. Are they in the back still? So if you got some of the T-shirts, they're in the back. See Lauren about that, and she'll make sure you get them. Are there any other announcements that we need to make? Yes, sir. Okay, let's keep prayers. Also, yes, sir. Breakfast with Santa this Saturday, so there's a sign-up list on the table, things for that. So parents, if that might get your kids or not so little kids excited, make sure you take a look at that. Yes, sir. All right, that's John Carmichael, hip replacement, possibly. All right, so pray for him and I guess the tests and stuff he's going through. Yes, sir. Okay. All right, so if you haven't done that, do so. Okay. All right, so if you would keep Bonnie's family, her aunt's family in your prayers, she passed away. Yes, sir. Okay, what was the name of that? Olivia Blanton had a miscarriage, so if you would pray for her, that family. Any others? Stress of school, be praying that our kids can make it through that mostly intact, I guess. I guess all of the traveling that's going to be done as well, be mindful and prayerful of that. If nothing else, if you would, let's bow and we'll have a word of prayer and then we'll dismiss the classes. Our dear loving and righteous and almighty Heavenly Father, we are grateful and thankful for this time and place where we can worship you and praise you and learn about your word. We pray that you would be with those of our number that we've mentioned that are sick or that are enduring things, that are facing difficulties, that you would be with them and comfort them, help them recover if it be your so much for Jesus and the blood that he shed and the hope of salvation through him. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Classes can take their places now. All right, we are continuing in our study of the book of Judges. So if you would get your Bibles open to book of Judges, chapter 11. We are finishing up this account with Jephthah and his judgeship and I guess the major problem or issue that he faced or brought upon himself. Now, like we've been saying, this passage here is kind of the repeated thought or phrase of the book. Everybody is just listening to their own heart, their own thoughts, and doing what they want. Breakdown for the book, we're just about to get to the end of, I guess, where the judges themselves are talked about, and then we're going to shift into the end of the book where it's more some of the description of the nation itself through some specific examples. All right, Judges chapter 11. Let's look at verse 30, and then we'll come back and take a look at what's up on the screen there. Judges 11, verse 30. It says, "And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord, said, if you will give me the Ammonites into my hand, then whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return, then in peace from the Ammonites shall be the Lord, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering." Now, we talked about this a little bit last week, set it up. What comes out of the house first when he gets there? His only daughter, only child, runs out of the house first. Now, like I said, I put this up there, the image of that house, because it gives me at least the thought of, at least he wasn't thinking he was going to offer a person, right? This at least shows that the animals are on that first floor, and they're probably going to come in and out, and that's probably what's going to be first. It's not what happens, but it makes the thought of seeing an animal come out of the house more probable than a person, right? Any of you have goats in your house today? Any of you keep livestock in your, next to your kitchen or underneath your stairs? It's just not how we live. So again, he makes this vow, God, I'll do this if. Now, we talked about it last week. The problem was, did he have to say, God, if you'll do this, then I'll do this? He chose to make this vow. This is something he chose to do. We looked at Deuteronomy 23 last week, and it essentially paraphrasing that thought is, don't make a rash vow. If you do, or if you do make it, then take hold of it. But it's yours to do with what you want. I might phrase it this way or look at it from this point of view. Ananias and Sapphira in the New Testament, what was their problem? What caused them to be struck down? Lying to the Holy Spirit specifically, everybody in general. But what was the response to them? You could have done what with the money? It was yours. Do with it how you will. Here's the thought. Here's how I frame this idea of Jephthah. Was God going to take care of him? Had he been given this call, this plea to go forth and, or this, to go forth and kill these individuals or save the Israelites? Absolutely. Have people before said, God, can you show me? Can you tell me? Can you prove to me that what you said is real? Yes. But he gives this thought on, when I get back, then I'll give the offering. But you notice also there in verse 30, the end of it, it uses that phrasing, burnt offering. So it's very specific on what he says he's going to do. So again, we go back to the thought, she comes out of the house. What does he say to her when he sees her coming? Now, I've always thought this was audacious of him. Because how does he phrase it? You have brought me low. Whose problem is it? Who messed up? He did, but the phrasing here seems like he's trying to throw it off on her, and he had this big mental image of maybe that big prize bull coming out first or whatever he had. Again, I don't know what he was planning on offering. But the thought was his daughter comes out and then he says, you've messed up. When going back to the vow, he could have just said, God, here's my offering. Or God, if we win, when I get back home, I'm going to offer XYZ as the burnt offering. So that's why I put that thought up there of poorly worded. Or maybe he wasn't very thoughtful in what he was doing or how he was saying it. Any thoughts from y'all on this? Jephthah and his daughter, the vow.
It was nearly making you think of Molech and all that when they offered their own children.
It's very eerily similar to those kind of set up there. And again, I think if you go back to start of this chapter, remember Jephthah was run out of his household and he had to gather those ruthless or worthless men around him, and maybe he just phrased it poorly. Maybe he didn't have the upbringing of, I know here's what I'm supposed to offer, or again, I don't know all the details with this. But the setup here is Jephthah had an action that God wanted him to do. He was willing, timid, scared even, but he phrased his proof from God in a very poor way. And that leads to the end of this chapter. She runs out. Again, he blames her. But she essentially talks him into, give me a few months and let me go up and down and lament and wail my virginity or my lack of being able to bear kids. Now, I've got a question for you, and I don't know if I have a solid answer for this. Did Jephthah offer up his daughter for a burnt offering? That's probably where I lean on this. I don't think God has ever accepted or wanted a human sacrifice, right? Even with Isaac going up there, he stayed his hand before it happened. The thought here is, I believe, now I wouldn't, I'm not going to be upset if somebody shows me evidence and says, here's the account and something that they found that says that they put her to death. But more than likely what happened is she was set aside for the purpose of serving God. Go to Hannah and Samuel. She prayed for a child, and what did she say? If you give him to me, what will I do? I'll give him to him. A little bit different setup, a little bit different phrasing here, but that is more than likely what happened. But even if you go over to Leviticus chapter 27, there's even a phrasing or a kind of a caveat in God's law where he says, if you make a special vow and a person's involved, or with the evaluation of a person, he gives set money amounts for them. So it seems like this was a perpetual thing. It wasn't just 2 months and then she gets to go off and have kids. Maybe if he had known about that Leviticus 27 law, maybe he could have paid it, or again, I don't know the setup or the whys or the reasons here, but the whole focus on this is this individual chose to speak rashly or quickly. He didn't think about the consequences or the end result of it, of what he said, and therefore he had to pay the consequences. His daughter had to pay the consequences, and on down, well, his family line ended, but there's what he had to deal with because of this. But you notice a custom arises because of this. It's a horrible situation, but it becomes almost a rallying point for the women of Israel, because then it becomes, well, there's Jephthah's daughter who, like me, never got to have kids. So you can think about the thought with Hannah, how she was praying to God and wanting a kid. The women of that mindset would be able to look at Jephthah's daughter and say, there's somebody like me. So again, I don't know why this would be, why Jephthah would do this or say this, but it gives us a good setup of how we as human beings react in difficult situations. All right, let's go on to chapter 12. We still stick with Jephthah here very quickly. I know this is hard to read up here. This is most of the judges that we've been reading about, kind of a rough timeline of when they existed. And I just wanted to throw this one up here to show you that there's some overlap in these. It's not just, one dies, then the next 20 years, then the next thing, then the next. These are kind of different areas of the Holy Lands, and one will be going on up here, and then maybe another one arises. And so some of these are contemporary, I think that's the word, concurrent. They're the same time frame for some of these people. All right, chapter 12. Now, I don't know what's wrong with Ephraim. Any of you have any clue? How does this chapter start off? Verse 1, they're frustrated. All right, who said it? With him, the thought is these Ephraimites see Jephthah and the winning, them running off this enemy, and they get mad that they weren't called, right? Why didn't you ask us to come and help you? Now, somebody go back to chapter 8. It's the exact same thought there. People of Ephraim said to, it's Gideon then, he says to Gideon, why didn't you ask us to come and help you, right? Do you think they saw this army coming across to fight against these people? Do you think that Ephraim was just unaware of the army coming to attack their brethren? It doesn't seem likely. It seems like they get mad and say, okay, why didn't you ask us to come? We're going to fight you. We're going to burn your house down and take everything. But notice verse 4. It said, then Jephthah gathered all the men of Gilead, went out and fought with Ephraim. Gilead struck Ephraim because they said, you are fugitives of Ephraim, you Gileadites, in the midst of Ephraim and Manasseh. It boils down to this. Ephraim's mad to the point where he said, you don't even deserve to be here anymore. We are going to run you out of town because here you are protected by us, and now you're not giving us any of the spoils. So we're going to come in, we're going to kill you, we're going to take over. But notice what Jephthah says before that. The phrasing of it all is, I just defended myself. These people were coming down to fight me, and I didn't think about calling you or sending off. I just gathered people and fought. Here's how it plays out in my mind. Somebody breaks into your house. Are you going to try to fight them off if you have the ability and capability, or right here, inspired by God to do this? You're going to run them out. And then somebody comes and gets mad at you and says, well, why didn't you call me and I would have come and helped? Well, I'm in fight or flight mode, right? It's just a momentary time. Maybe the neighbor, maybe the person saying it saw him breaking into my house, right? Remember, these were the Ephraimites. They would have had to have passed near them to get here. So the thought is it's all messed up. The Ephraimites are just saying, we wanted to come and fight alongside you, and since you didn't let us, now we're going to come and we're going to take you over. Then we have the thought of the Shibboleth and the Sibboleth. Yes, sir.
But Jephthah told him, I did call you.
Oh, yes. This again, same thing in chapter 8, right? We had sent to you, but you didn't come, so I had to take it into my own hands to do it. And again, that's the setup. You weren't helping. So I'm just doing what I need to do to survive, and now you're trying to kill me because of it. Does any of this in chapter 12 seem just? Does it seem? But isn't that what we as God's people often have to go through, right? We fight our battles, and then somebody comes in and says, well, why didn't you do it this way? And then they get mad at us for defending ourselves, kind of.
Seemed like they were just waiting to see if you won or lost. And if they waited, we'd have known your side. Lost in those things.
I'll have to say I had that thought a time or two when I was reading it as well. I don't get the idea of, if my brethren, the other tribe, is in danger, why don't I, as part of God's people, send my army and go help them? Whatever their reasoning is, they decide to fight. Like we said, then we have this Sibboleth and Shibboleth. Essentially, this boils down to something that still works today. I don't remember the word, but even in the Ukraine-Russian war, there's still some phrasing or word that they use just like this. And it is, we all talk different, right? If you go north, what will people say about your accent? Well, if they come here, how will we make fun of their accent? I mean, what will we say about their accent? You see the thought there. Easy for us to see. So they say, okay, say this word. If you can say it right, you get to go. If not, we put you to death. How many Ephraimites were killed in this encounter? 42,000. So after fighting off this outside force, Ephraim comes and gets mad at them, and apparently there's enough of an army to be scary, right? 42,000, that's a significant force. And Jephthah's just standing there saying, I'm just doing what I needed to do to keep myself alive. They fight, they war, they push them back. 42,000 of their brethren were killed. That's disgusting to me, because these people were all Israelites, right? It's not like the Ammonites, it's not like the Philistines, it's not like the Canaanites, but these are descendants of Abraham that are warring with each other. But that happens in our world today, doesn't it? Don't we as Christians sometimes get focused on the wrong things or the wrong battles, or we get angry with so-and-so for XYZ, and again, maybe not the same situation, but the setup is there, right? So what should I have been doing? Well, if I'm Jephthah, I did exactly what I should have in this situation, other than the vow, right? God, I'll serve you, no conditions, and I'll give you how I've been prospered. But also the thought is, I don't need to be like these Ephraimites, that for generations it seems like they have this mindset of, I'm owed. I'm due something from every fight or every conflict that takes place. All right, let's look at the end of this chapter is just very quickly 1, 2, 3 hits Isban, Elon, and Abdon. Again, not much information given about them other than, here's some of their kids, I think daughters and sons for Isban, and then just the timeline of how long they served or how long they judged. Excuse me. So, why give us this little breakup here? I'm not sure. Why go from such in-depth study of one to, here's just this guy and he did well? I'm not sure of that. I would like to have known more about them, but we get into chapter 13, though, and he shifts away from these people that we know very little about to now somebody that we're going to essentially know from start to finish of his life, from parents before conception down really through every major interaction in his life. So in chapter 13, you notice at the beginning of it, there's our phrasing, right? People did what was right in their own sight. 40 years, though, it says God gave them over to the Philistines. So this is the biggest chunk of time that God has let them go. So 40 years, we have Manoah and his wife crying out or asking for deliverance, or I don't know if it's probably not just them, it's probably everybody in the community or all of the righteous individuals. But look at verse 2 if you would. It says, there was a certain man of Zorah, tribe of Danites, who was Manoah, and his wife was barren, had no children. The angel of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, behold, you are barren. Not like she didn't know that, right? Behold, you are barren and have not borne children, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now, anybody get similar vibes to some other situation? Is there another thing about Abraham and Sarah? They were in their old age still waiting for that son of promise. Very similar wording to what's used here. Think about Christ. Isn't this wording similar to introductions of him as well? Or at least that thought there at the end of, verse number 4, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Verse 4, therefore be careful, drink no wine or strong drink, eat nothing unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come upon his head. Now notice the end of verse number 5. It says, he shall begin to save Israel from the hand of the Philistines. So the thought is to these parents, get ready, prepare. To the mother, first of all here, prepare, because through you, this kid that's coming is going to save Israel. Now, parents, would that be a boon to you? Would that be an amazing thing for you to hear? God says, your kid is going to do X, Y, Z. That'd be great, right? Well, she hears this. She understands it, that he goes into depth or goes into a little bit of description here about the Nazirite vow, how that's what he is going to have to follow, and her by extension, while she's carrying him. But she hears all this. She goes to her husband, and what does he do? He says something to his wife or does something with the situation. So, all right. He prays to God, God, tell me what I'm going to do with this kid. Tell me what I'm supposed to teach him. I think that's a pretty solid response, don't you? God blesses you with a child that's going to go up or be raised up and save Israel. Okay, God, can you give me a little help on what I'm supposed to do with him? But what happens here? The angel returns to who? The wife again. She runs to her husband, gets him there. He asks the angel, hey, okay, so what are we supposed to do with this kid? And what does the angel of the Lord say? I'm going to paraphrase it and make it a little funny. Exactly what I told your wife. What was that? Follow the instructions I gave her. Guys, have you ever been here before? Your wife knows what's supposed to happen, the directions you're supposed to go, the way that it's supposed to be carried out. And we're like, yes, but I want to make sure. No, maybe it's just me then. But that seems like what the husband's doing here. He's like, okay, I get you, I understand, I believe you. Now notice verse number 12, because here's a key to this. He says, Manoah said, when your words come true. So he's saying to the wife, he's saying to the angel, he says, I know what you said is real, but I just want to hear it as well. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but the angel says, I've already told her to exactly, and then he goes over them again. But after this, there's a very similar situation to what happens with Gideon. Remember when Gideon was called, he wants to give an offering to this angel. They want to do the same. So he says, let me get a kid, let me do this, let me do that. The angel uses a phrase here, or makes a statement and says, you can do it, but I'm not going to partake. Make sure you offer it to God. Now, if you would, look at the end of let's just look at all of verse 18. It says, and the angel of the Lord said to him, why do you ask my name? So after this, after he's preparing the kid, Manoah asked this messenger, this angel of the Lord, who are you? I think that's a reasonable thought, right? Here's a man that's giving your wife this information. You know it's miraculous in some way. Okay, who are you? What's the name he gives, or what's the phrase he gives there? Angel, it is wonderful. Now, skip down just a little bit, and there's a phrasing there about Manoah. They offered these things up to the one who works wonders, or the worker of wonders. So the image there, the thought is, the angel is standing there, receiving the gift, and they're saying, who are you? And he says, why are you asking my name? It is wonderful. Now, beyond understanding. The thought there is, this person is undescribable. This person is beyond his works. The abilities that they have are outside of our capabilities. But you notice there, I think it's Isaiah, one second. Yeah, Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6. This is a statement about Christ. It's speaking of the Messiah coming. And in that phrasing, it gives him the name of wonderful there. Again, Isaiah 9 and verse 6. That's why I'm connecting this back to this angel of the Lord is more than likely Christ before he came in the flesh. He's saying, what's your name? It's wonderful. It's this indescribable. It's this works of wonder. And it's very similar to that setup in Isaiah where we directly connect it to the coming of Christ. But again, he says this statement, here I am. They set up this offering, the sacrifice, and the angel just goes on up with the fire. Now remember with Gideon, the angel of the Lord that came there and gave him that message, and he said, here's the cloth or the ram's coat, make it damp, make it dry. It's almost like the angel at this point is saying, there's no way you can deny who I am. They offer this and they see him ascend up with this fire of the offering.
They never realized to this point until now that he was actually the angel of God.
The next statement out of his mouth is essentially, we just saw God. We are about to die. Again, I think that's a reasonable thought there. in No Man Has Seen God Face to Face and Live, right? The image of seeing somebody ascend up into heaven, that's a terrifying thought, right? So here they are, here's the husband. What's going to happen? Now, what does his calm wife say? If we were going to die, we'd already be dead. Out of this whole situation, out of this whole interaction, all this angel had to do was kill us and we'd be dead. Why would he wait till this moment? So I think we're seeing in large part a faith of the wife more than we're seeing the faith of the husband, even though I think he is faithful because of how, some of the things are phrased there. But the thought is, she's just like, here's what it is. Here's what he told me. Settle down. If we were going to die, we would have died. And then that leads to the last verse of chapter 13, and that is, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir in him. The image is she had this child, they had the kid, and as he's growing up, God is with him. Now, I don't know how that phrasing would show in his life, right? How does a person show that God's with them during this point? Maybe it was the mighty works of strength that he had. Maybe it was he was wise. Maybe it was, I would tend to lean probably more toward the strength things than anything else. But the thought is, people could see Samson as he was growing up, and they could see that God was with him. Is that fair? Now, this leads us into chapter 14. So we've got Samson. We've got Israel in this bondage of the Philistines for 40 plus years at this point. Samson is going to save the people, but we don't know how yet. We open up chapter 15 with Samson's desire for marriage. I would put Samson at a young age at this point, probably early 20s would be a guess, and that's just me guessing, so take that for what it is. But the image here is this young man has been raised by his parents, and again, from the setup there, they seem to be godly parents. But he says, I saw a girl I liked, I want to marry her. What do his parents say first of all? Well, it's a Philistine girl, since that makes a difference. Why do you have to go to they use the phrase uncircumcised. Why do you have to go to, I'm going to phrase it this way, why do you have to go to the godless people? Why do you have to go somewhere where God's people aren't, where God isn't upheld or thought about or cared about? Again, remember Manoah and his wife probably had this thought echoing in their heads while raising him. God said he's going to save us. God said he's going to save Israel. So as they're standing there, are you sure you want this wife? Are you sure you want to go over there? Now, I don't want to try to say that there's any difference in race today or that this plays a part in how we live or how we marry, but then it was about keeping themselves pure from God. While he's on his way there, we have the account with the lion. He slays it. The honey grows in, or the swarm comes and makes the honey in it. But there's a phrase in verse 6 that I want you to notice. It says there that the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him or came upon him. The image here is that there are times in this man's life where he is driven to do something or called to do something, or he is given the power to accomplish something. Notice the account there. It says he ripped apart the lion. How? Bare hands, and with what ease? As easy as one could do what? Take apart or rip apart a young goat. Now, I've never tried to take apart a young goat, so I don't know how easy that is, but the imagery is there, right? The difference is you've got a lion and you've got a little bitty lamb. Samson here is just ripping that thing apart, right? Spirit of the Lord came upon him. He's given the strength, the power to overwhelm this. Now, verse number 10. You notice his father goes down to the Philistine family, and essentially all that's meaning is he's going down there to figure out the price to pay for her. What's the dowry going to be? Okay, my son wants her. I'll give you this many camels, clothes, whatever. So the father goes down there. Samson starts setting up a feast. Seems to be that was a custom of the Philistines, not necessarily of the Jews at this time. Not that they didn't have feasts, but it seems to be that they would have about a 7-day feast, and then after that feast, they would be married. So he goes down there, starts the feast, verse number 11. Yeah, verse number 11. As soon as the people saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. Now, these are not his friends. That's a strong point to make here. These are her family members, the people of her town. So they see Samson setting up a feast like you're supposed to. These 30 companions from theirs come over and enjoy the feast with him. Again, that's just the cultural way they did it then. So he's having this feast, and he poses the riddle, right? Now, this seems very shady to me, this posing of the riddle, because it reminds me, any of you read The Hobbit when, he hides the ring in his pocket and he says, "What's in my pocket?" And then Gollum gets all mad because, "How can I know what's in your pocket?" This is a random encounter, right? A lion that he kills, and then the swarm of bees lands and makes a hive, and so he gives this thought: out of the eater came something to eat, out of the strong came something sweet. What does that mean? Now, without reading beforehand, would you have any guess on that? No. But notice what he sets up, what this riddle's purpose is. He's there putting that feast on. He's got those companions, those 30 men. There's probably more than that, people coming out to enjoy the wedding feast with him at times, but these are supposed to be the ones that keep him entertained, keep him happy for the week. Verse number 12, middle part of it, it says, "Then let me now put a riddle to you. If you can tell me what this is within 7 days of the feast, and if you find out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you can't figure it out, then you give that stuff to me." To me, this seems like this was what happens when you get a bunch of young kids together or young men together. They just kind of outdo each other, one up. "Hey, here's what I can do. Here's what this is." That kind of mentality. So he says, "Well, I've got a riddle you can't solve, and if you can't solve it, then I get something. But if you do, then I'll give it to you." Now, what's the understanding? Does he expect anybody to answer this riddle? I mean, that's the image, right? He killed the lion, didn't tell his parents. Came back later, got the honey, didn't tell his parents. Now, look at verse number 15. All right, it says on the 4th day, so after 3 days of feasting, this wife-to-be, now it phrases it wife there, but they're still going through the process of being married. So his wife, or they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband to tell us what the riddle is." Now, what did they say they're going to do? You get him to tell you, or we're going to kill you and your family. Now, that's a pretty difficult situation for anyone to be in, right? Now, what's ironic about this is later on, this is exactly what's going to happen to them, because they turn on Samson. But the thought is, they say, "Do it or we're going to kill you." So what does this woman, this Samson has begged his parents to help him do? Verse 16, we're going to end on this, and I want you to hold this verse in your mind and skip ahead in chapter 15 and notice how this comes back to bite him. verse 16. It says, and Samson's wife wept over him and said, now, so that's the image. There she is weeping, and please tell me, I'm your wife. You only hate me. You do not love me. You have put a riddle to my people, and you have not told me what it is. How does that make him not love her? You've put a riddle to my people. You don't love me because you haven't told me. You hate me because you haven't told me. I'm gonna interject my thought into this. Does she sound like she's overreacting? It sounds like she's pretty scared about what they told her. I'm going to burn your house down, not that he really hates her, right? So the image there is, here is Samson, a man who's going to end up saving Israel. He goes out and sees this woman that he likes. Now, go back if you would. I tried to save this. Verse number 3. What phrase does Samson use there to describe this woman? Somebody read the end of verse 3 for me. All right. She looks good to me. Something about his eyes, though. She looks what? She looks right in my eyes. It's the same phrasing that's used of Israel time and again, right? They did what was right in their own eyes. Samson did what was right in his own eyes. And now he's going to have to pay the consequences of it. But if you go to, I think it's verse 4, it talks about how all of this is a setup by God. God is going to use this guy and his wandering eye, maybe, his desire for women, to put him in the position to keep destroying these Philistines. My point with this one is Samson is definitely flawed, right? He has problems with trust. He has problems with understanding what love really is. But God is still able to use him to save his people. For us today, any of you perfect? Any of you, lied, stole, cheat? Any of you, whatever the sin is, right? But does that mean that we have to stay with the sin? Does that mean we have to stay separate from God? Or jump to the end of Samson's life, right? Even though we might mess up, what can we do? We can still take that step and call on him. Again, I want you to take that phrase there, you do not, or you only love me, you do not, or you only hate me, you do not love me. And then skip ahead to chapter 15 and compare it to that situation with Delilah and how he was just an oblivious man and could not let his, I'll say emotions, allow him to make the appropriate choices. Any thoughts or comments before we close tonight? All right. Like I said, we'll pick up on chapter 15 next week. I appreciate your time and attention.